And so how can that, you can get stuck, right? Sometimes in the emergency room, things move what? Fast. How many sharp objects is usually floating around? A lot. Safety is what? Everyone's responsibility. If you see something that's going on that's unsafe, you need to speak up. If a patient comes in that was having seizures, what is safety of environment for that? Seizure precautions. What are they? Padding position. Bed rails. What else? Suction. What else? Huh?
Turn them on this side.
Huh? I was joking about it earlier.
Get their tongue out of the way? Is that what?
What was wrong with this? Before I put that up.
Oh, the light.
Guys, that's really a thing. What kind of environment? Low stimulus. They will have another seizure if you go in there talking loud, flicking on all the lights, flickering the lights, heaven forbid. They're going to have another. That's a safe environment, isn't it? Equipment. The time to learn how to use your equipment is not when. The second you need it. If your equipment is malfunctioning, it's not safe. What about medication? For the patient that was brought up to the ICU, and I know some of you heard this example, from the ER, that's getting 150 units of insulin an hour, is that safe? Absolutely not. It wasn't safe for the ICU nurse to dive across the bed either, but she probably saved the patient. That patient's awful sleepy. I bet she is. Her blood sugar's 2. Safety of medication. Everybody in here realized emergency what? Oh, sweet baby Jesus. You just have killed the patient. A friend of mine from Skyline came home and said, "You ain't gonna believe this." I was like, "What?" They had orders for 3 milligrams of Dilaudid IV push every hour. Now, I will tell you, if you don't know, usually the dose of Dilaudid, you might even only give 0.5 every hour. 1 is a hefty dose. Like, even some, and I'm only looking at you, Jay, because the biggest guys in here would I consider giving 1. A lot of things go into that. If I say you're narcotic naive, what does that mean? You don't ever take narcotics. If you give them 1, you're going to knock them for a loop. If you do street drugs every day and you give them 1, they're going to be like, "Did you give me something?" I'm serious. I might give them 1. I am not giving anybody 3 milligrams of Dilaudid. I might not necessarily expect y'all to know that. Any nurse that's been a nurse probably more than 6 months should know that. Once y'all get into your area, wherever you work, you need to start learning the medications that you use. The dose of fentanyl is anywhere from 25 to 100 micrograms. On a normal patient, I've really never given more than 200. So on this one patient, we gave 100. He screamed. He cut off his fingers on a lawnmower. I gave him 100 more. He's screaming even louder. Blood pressure's actually elevated. It'll drop your blood pressure a little bit. I'm looking at my partner. He's about your size now. Ain't affected. I might as well report it on the floor. another 100, like 10 minutes apart. I'm looking at her, she's looking at me. He should have been snowed. You taking meds? Nope. His mom was sitting in the back. Another 100 miles. I'm like, he should be stopping breathing. Or at least slowing down. Nope, his blood pressure is elevated and he's screaming. We gave him 500 mics total, and I was like, I'm going to give him 3 of Versed. That stopped him from screaming. The wheels on the airplane had landed. I looked at his mama. I said, does he take any medicine? He's kind of stopped screaming. She said, you know, he has these little films he puts under his tongue. Does anybody know what he takes? No. What? Suboxone. What is that? It is an opioid blocking. It has Narcan in it. He wasn't getting one damn bit of that. Why didn't he tell me? He was ashamed. Guys, we had ketamine. If he would have just told me that. Ketamine has analgesic, pain, and sedative properties. It is an unbelievable medication. I could have stopped his pain just like that. Know the medications you're giving. Talk to your patients. He couldn't calm down long enough to tell me, but I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference. He wouldn't talk to me, but you got to know pharmacology based on the area you're working. Safety of delegation. This is the easiest way to remember this. You always want to know the TEA. You never delegate what? The initial teaching, education, and the last one is a big one, assessment. LPNs can reinforce education. They cannot teach and do assessments. Ever. Please keep your safety in mind. In the clinical setting, all those things are in safety. I'm talking about your personal safety. Guys, I got complacent. We're in a small town. When I worked for Lifelight, I was always on key. We had pulled weapons off of people when it was dangerous for us. We were in a helicopter where you sat on the fuel tanks. I mean, we were always so hyper aware. I got complacent. We had a young gentleman that got dropped off at the back docks, and this was in the news, so I ain't breaking HIPAA. He got shot in the eye. It was a drug deal gone bad. He was 17. That's the only reason he was still alive. He had cerebral spinal fluid coming out of his ear. I had the entire clinical group in there. They were against the wall. We couldn't get involved. And I had a new student from the community college. Her name was Brittany, and I adopted her. The flight crew had showed up, Lifelight, and it was one of my friends. She was one of my preceptors years ago. They're loading him up, and I told them, I said, hey, let's go outside. So we watched him take off. And I don't know why I told them this. I'm glad I did, because I took Brittany. I said, if I tell y'all to get inside, I don't want any questions. I said, I want you to come inside. We're out there, and I'm standing by, y'all know the Tenova, the ambulance bay. It's got a little brick partition, thank God. We're watching the helicopter, and you know how the sound changes before they take off. It's kind of midway, and I look out in the parking lot, and there's a car coming in. Guys, I'm not stereotyping. It's blacked out, and it's driving slow. And I'm like, Security guards out there. The cops are there. They're inside. I didn't know what was unfolding inside. All of a sudden, there are two very large African Americans males walking across the parking lot. It's not cold. Both of them have on jackets. One of them has his hand in his pocket. I looked at my students, I said, get inside right now. And they got inside, and I stepped back behind the partition. The security guard heard me, and he looked out there, and he stepped back behind the column. I hear the helicopter. It's faster, but it's not gonna make it. He never took his hand out of his pocket, but he heard me, and he knows the police are in there. Guys, they were in the waiting room. The family started kicking on the door. If they would have known that, I am sure he had a gun in his pocket. He never took his hand out of his pocket. He was looking over there, and when they did hear me, he turned around and started walking away, and he kept looking back. Guys, if he would have shot that helicopter, what would have happened? Probably. It would have exploded. You know, they sit on the gas tanks. I finally heard them power up and take off, and I was like, oh my God. And so me and the security guard, they didn't get close enough. It had to have been a handgun, because the other guy, I mean, I could see his jacket. They didn't have a rifle. We went back inside, and I looked at this nurse. I didn't know her that well. I was like, where are the police? And she I was not nice to her, and I apologized later. I said several explicatives, and she looked at me. I said, I need the cops. And so she ran out there and got him. He came up there, and I told him what happened. By the time they got out there, they were gone. I got complacent, didn't I? If y'all see something, say something. And so I went and got, my students were shaking. I mean, hell, I was too. I went and got Brittany's instructor, and I asked her, could I take her down there to debrief? I didn't realize how bad it affected them. Adult Health 2 and leadership used to be in the same cohort, and they used to journal. Dr. Wilk came to see me to tell me what they had written. If you see something, guys, those nurses are so busy. We have the chance to be in the room a lot more. How many weapons you think are tried to bring in that emergency room? A lot. What order does this go in? Whose safety is first? Yours. Then whose? Absolutely not. Your team. Why? If you're dead, you can't help nobody. Why your team?
If they're dead, they can't help nobody either.
Huh?
If they're dead, they can't help nobody either.
That, why else?
But if they're injured, you're gonna focus on them over the patient.
There you go. You can lie to me all you want to, unless you don't like them. Then you're gonna be like, I bet that hurts. You can tell me you're gonna focus on your patient, you're lying. If they're hurt, you're going to go to your friend and ignore that patient. I had one of my firefighters have a heart attack on the scene. That's the hardest thing I've ever done. My partner had to grab me. We couldn't save him. I didn't want to treat my patient. He was broke as. It was a bad car wreck. We didn't even know what had happened. All I knew is he passed out. I didn't want to treat my patient. I couldn't even think about him. I work with him every day. 24 hours a day. I knew him better than I knew my spouse. I liked him a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. You can lie to yourself all you want to. You work with these people every day. Day in and day out, unless you don't like them. Then who? Now the patient. Then who? all bystanders. What if there's an active shooter? Y'all should be telling your kids this. Run, hide, fight. And I tell my clinical group this all the time. If I get shot and cannot get out, what are you supposed to do?
Leave you.
Leave me there. What y'all gonna do? Guys, I know y'all are military, and I know you're trained to leave nobody behind. Now, if you can get your coworker out, that's different. Do not. If we all get shot, who gonna take care of the patients? Do your best. What?
Call the other school.
Right.
Travel nurses.
We're gonna leave them. I'm just kidding. That's ugly. Does everybody